Welcome to Rico 12. My name is Justin. I am a son of an all-powerful and all-loving God and a recovering addict. I'm blessed to be the host of this meeting and podcast. Rico 12 is an organization with the mission of learning and sharing the similarities of addiction of all kinds and gaining and sharing tools and hope from others who are walking a similar path. We come together from all places, faiths, and backgrounds to gain tools and hope from others who are walking this same path. Speakers from our past meetings have represented many fellowships, addictions, and afflictions, and we look forward to continuing to add to the diversity of speakers and backgrounds. In fact, I'd love to get a gambler, someone from GA in here. So if anybody has a connection with somebody in GA that has the solution, who carries the message, send them my way. I'd love to talk with them. Today's speaker for the 158th meeting is Leila J., whose topic will be recovery essentials, honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. And we'll get to her talk in the Q&A afterwards in just a minute. First, for a little bit of business. First of all, I want to offer another apology for those who may not have recognized this or read or seen anything. Last week, I totally forgot to hit record before the meeting with Anita H., and so it did not get recorded. She has been kind and gracious enough to be willing to come back, and so we can get it recorded. Now look for a pop-up meeting sometime in late April or early May. Probably will be on a Wednesday or Thursday, so get in on that one. Please make sure you're either in the Rico 12 WhatsApp group or on the email list so that you can get that. It'll be a pop-up. We'll just know about it a day or two before it happens, and love to have you there. Information on how to join those will be in the chat of the live meeting as well as in the show notes. The Rico 12 family of recovery resources launched a new series for all addicts and those seeking the solution. It's another recovery meeting called Rico 12 Shares. Rico 12 Shares is an open to anyone, anytime, asynchronous, shares only unaffiliated 12-step meeting. All are welcome to record a solution-based share that is uploaded to be part of a short 15 to 20-minute recorded recovery meeting available in podcast format anytime, anywhere. To listen to any of the 11 meetings uploaded so far, or to learn more and to record a share of your own, please go visit rico12.com/shares or click on the links that will be in the show notes of the chat and also in the live meeting. There are also a couple of other Rico 12 family of recovery resources on the horizon that I'm super excited about. Good stuff is coming along for Rico 12 and excited to share that as they are ready to drop. Your donations and subscriptions are making this all possible, as there are costs affiliated with all of them. Speaking of that, we are a self-supporting service, and we appreciate your help in keeping us working our 12th step in this manner. We gratefully accept one-time contributions through PayPal and Venmo through the links that will be in the chat and in the show notes. And we have also started a new monthly subscription program called Rico 12 Spearheads. We're grateful to those of you who have joined in that Spearheads community. To join in and help support these cool projects, please consider donating at rico12.com/support or click on the links once again in the chat and the show notes. We look forward each week from receiving from the light reflected from our speakers. That light inspires hope, meaning, worth, and growth in us, the listening audience. Here's a little bit about Leila J., who is our speaker today, and she was a previous speaker on meeting number 47 back in April of 2021. Wow, almost 2 years ago. How cool is that? Here's a little bit about Leila. Leila is a gratefully thriving and prospering in all of her fellowships. It is thorough. Wow, I'm sorry. Let me restart that. Leila is gratefully thriving and prospering in all of her fellowships. It is through rigorously working the 12 steps that she has found peace, serenity, and joy in her life today. The 12 steps have given Leila the community, solution, and recipe for living that she never knew she always needed. She has started 2 SLAA meetings, which combined have over 300 joining participants every week, and she is passionate about being of service and works this program as seriously as she worked her addictions. Leila, take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Justin. Thank you for your service, and thank you for all the work you're doing to find new and exciting ways to engage us in recovery in this digital realm and sphere. I'm grateful to be here. You had asked me to update my, you're like, do you want to update your bio? And I was like, no, I don't remember what my bio was, but hopefully it still applies. And it does. I'm grateful to say that. I think now with a little bit more time and experience and taking a very vacuum Zoom started recovery into the real world, it's been beautiful to see how I get to work these steps in ways that weren't even on my radar before. So I chose to talk about the how, right? The honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness for a couple of reasons. Last night before I was going to bed and I was praying, it came to me. It's like, in every meeting at the end and AA meetings and such, they say like, it works if you work it and you're worth it, right? So I thought, so chapter 5 is called How It Works. And if you just think honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, and then you put like a semicolon, it works. It feels like resonant for some reason, because it really does. And the slogans and the spirit of this program and the people who share the message of recovery and the solution, it's such a genuine thing, and it comes from such a genuine place. And so if you're new to recovery, if you are not in recovery yet, but you're just trying to get some insight and ideas, or to connect or hear a story that's like yours, you will hear your story in these rooms and in the big book of AA. That's the first lesson I learn when I come here, is that I am not too damaged to recover. I am not too far gone, thank God. And so what brings me into the rooms is being pretty seriously mangled. I don't like to share too much of the mess, but we have it in the big book. It says most alcoholics, addicts, add whatever your ism is there, have to be pretty badly mangled before they really commence to solve their problems. That's page 43. And we in turn sought the same escape with all the desperation of a drowning person. If you just think of that image, that's what I was when I came into these rooms. And I couldn't understand what anybody was really talking about, but I heard people saying the things out loud that I always thought about myself and never talked about. The biggest fears that I had, the crippling experience of feeling inadequate and ill-equipped to function as a normal person. And that was the first humbling experience. I had to honestly say, these people are like me and I'm like them. And I had to be open-minded, because being judgmental is a character defect that I have, that I'm codependent on in my life. Being dishonest, judgmental, and not open-minded, and unwilling, and only in my will, those are me as an addict. So when the book says, this is how you do it, how does it work? Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program. Usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. Honest with themselves, right? And I was really terrified that I wasn't going to be able to do that, because it'd been so long since I'd been honest. I didn't know what myself was, and I didn't know what honesty was, and I couldn't tell the true from the false, and I didn't know up from down, and I didn't see a way out of that. But what's really beautiful is that I come in mangled, and I begin to do the work quickly so that I can start to get relief. The book, the steps, they're like a magic spell. And when you start to do them, miracles, and I'm going to use these words, right, that are like, kind of have like religious overtones, like miracles, God, whatever. I'm going to ask for an open mind for anybody who has any issues with those words, or those concepts, because this is a holistic and wholly inclusionary program that allows you to find freedom from your old concepts of what a God or a higher power is. The book says, may you find God now, not the God from Catholic school, not the God that you felt judged by, not the God from yesterday even, because the God from yesterday is not my same, it's not the same thing. I have to constantly seek it. And as you get more time, at least for me, as I get more time, I get lazier, because what happens? I get relief from my seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, and I begin to quit corners. Why? Because I have a superiority complex with an inferiority complex, and I think that I've got it. And the moment that I think that I've got it, I've lost it already. It's been gone for a minute. And by a minute, I mean a while. And so I have to start working these steps. I have to be open, and I have to really examine these steps as what the people in these rooms, what the book, what this program promises is a completely revolutionized experience of myself, the world, and my place in it, and a higher power. Step 2 is coming to believe in it. I come to believe in it. It's not instant. There have been months, and my fellows know this, where I'm like, I don't hear it. I don't hear it the way I want to hear it. I don't see it how God used to speak to me in every single. Okay, so why don't I go and seek that now? I have to be open-minded. I'm a stubborn addict. And in my addicted ways, I get addicted to the way God or higher power shows up for me fully. And I have to, like, what this program teaches me is I have to let go of every notion and every idea that I think I have. Thank you, Justin, for saying the set aside prayer, because that's what I have to do every time I write a resume, every time I have to take a call, every time I have to talk to my parents, to friends. So I have to set it aside, because I am addicted to the dysfunction that my isms bring to my life. And so I come in mangled, I come in broken, I say, okay, I'll be honest. And why do I agree to do this work? Because I see myself in others, because people share this message and they share their solution. If you've been in this program for a long time and it's not working, if you've just joined the program and it's not working, I can honestly say you're not working it. And I don't say that from a place of ego. I say it from a place of like complete, I'm mystified by the fact that when you do it and you follow these instructions, these 12 steps by the book, it works. And there's actually no way around it. So there's good news and there's bad news. There's a solution and there's a solution. And what the solution means is that I have to work it. So I have to set aside the ideas I have about my self-perception, my self-pity, my selfishness, my self-deprecation, negative ways that I view myself and lies that I tell myself, because this kind of work is higher. It's a higher elevation of work. And even if I don't believe those good things about myself yet, because I come in here with no self-esteem, how do I build my self-esteem? I do esteemable acts. And what are esteemable acts? They are the contents of these 12 steps. Period. I can get relief from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. What does that mean? A seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. If you know what that means, then you know what it means. If you don't know what it means, I hope you don't have to, and that this can work for you without getting there. But I had to be at the absolute bottom of the barrel. And as a fellow says, hell has a basement, and so does my rock bottom, and I never want to go there. And why don't I want to go there? Because I worked these steps and I immediately, like a good addict, got addicted to the relief that I got. That's it. I wouldn't do this without a paycheck. My paycheck is that I get to feel serenity. I was talking to a fellow who said that they didn't know that serenity was a real thing until they worked these steps. Like they thought that was a fable. The promises that are in each one of these steps, they will materialize, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, not on my time. I have to remember that I'm not in charge and that I don't want to be in charge. But most importantly, I don't have to be in charge. That's it. Like, if I turn my will and my life over, I don't have to do this back and soul and life-breaking work that I think, it's like myth of Sisyphus. I think I'm pushing something up a hill and it's working. It's not working and it's never going to work. I have to be convinced. I have to be honest with the idea that the ways I'm living my life do not work. And if you're not convinced of that, maybe you can stick around and come to be convinced. The book also talks about, having to go out and do more research and to not force this work onto people. Because I have to tell you, nobody had to tell me, no one had to force me to do anything when I came in here. And that's not because I'm such a good worker. No, it's because I was at the end of my rope and at the end of my life. There was no life left. And so what was my first experience with faith? The fact that I even said yes. The fact that I said, I want to recover. I need help, and show me what to do. I have to put my ego aside. And when you're as badly mangled as I was, it wasn't too difficult to admit that what I was doing wasn't working. In fact, I was so fed up with it that if you said jump, I would have jumped. So good thing I didn't jump right into a cult, right? I jumped into the loving hands of these rooms, this program, this work, and this book, and into my higher power. Willingness is probably what I want to spend the rest of my time talking about, because it's a really interesting thing. At first, I thought willingness is just yeah, I'll do it. No, at this point, sure, that's it sometimes. But for me at this point, I have to sometimes pray for the willingness to be willing. I've got levels and layers, y'all. And these levels and layers are constantly trying to kill me. They are trying to keep me from God. And that's not because I'm inherently bad or I'm inherently broken. No, it's just because I've lived so long cutting corners and finding really strange solutions to very simple problems, overcomplicating and my pain body becoming addicted to what that feels like, that I don't know another way. So sometimes it's really hard to be willing. I have some amends that I need to make. And I'm not yet willing to be willing. I'm just not. And I have to ask my higher power to give that to me, because why am I here ultimately? And I'm not saying anything new. This is in the book. I have lost power. And I am trying to plug in to every person, place, and thing that can give me the simulation of power. And it's all fleeting. And so what this program and how it works, what it teaches me is that it's hey, do you want to plug into unlimited power? And not power in a hierarchical, patriarchal way. It's power in the sense of having the ability to handle life on life's terms. That to me is a superpower. I don't do it perfectly, but this program and this work has helped me to understand what that looks like and to gain valuable experience in what living in this world as one of the living is like. And it's not easy, but I have tools. I can't come out and empty my cup of addiction, empty all of my bad behaviors, empty all that stuff and not put anything back into it. You know what? And sometimes exercise is hard. Eating healthy is difficult. You know what's not that difficult is you just read this book. When you wake up, it tells you wake up, you read Upon Awakening. Before you go to bed, before we retire at night, we review. nightly inventories, admitting when we're wrong. That is my humbling and required homework. I have to do the work. And that's why it's good news and bad news that there's a solution. So when I'm honest about the fact that I need help and I have a problem, and I'm honest about the fact that as much as I want to be different from all of you, I'm actually just the same. I then have unlocked like a level, and that level allows me to sit at the table. And then comes my judgment. All right, so like what? Am I supposed to and those voices, the judgment has to be remedied with open-mindedness. This is a kind of like, to begin this recovery, I have to do almost like a mini inventory and ask myself, am I going to be honest? Am I going to be open-minded? And am I going to be willing? Because I actually would much rather, it's much easier for me in my head to embody the opposite qualities of those words. It's safer, and it hurts. And I'm accustomed to that. So through willingness, I unlock like another level of understanding how many more levels there are. I don't graduate. I don't ever finish. This is like, I work the steps. I got to work them if I want them to work for me. And I can say that if you skip around and you choose and you pick the thing that you aren't doing, the thing that's not working, it's going to circle back. And it will haunt you, because that's what happens now for me. When I've reached my first spiritual experience, which the book says, don't have expectations about what a spiritual experience is, right? Be open-minded to what that might look like. It might look like a moment where you're on a walk and you pause and you happen to see the light hit a flower in a way that makes you feel filled with the loving hand, voice, essence, aura of a higher power. It could be whatever that looks like for you. But I have to be, I have to be open-minded that my spiritual experiences vary in intensity and in profoundness. To me, according to me, the great judge of the century, of all time. So I have to be open to how everything is going to show up for me, and to be flexible in my ability to not know. I come in here and I say I turn my will and my life over, and that's also me saying I turn my thoughts and my actions, and I turn my need to know over. And I have to have infinite trust, full reliance on a higher power. And it's not easy, even when I have amnesia, even when I have had earth-shattering experiences with a higher power. I will forget tomorrow. I will forget because I need more. It needs to be this. It needs to be that. I just lost a gig. Whatever. I am so willing to throw this away. And that's, I think, the kind of wild part about this work. This program and these steps, you can grasp them quickly, you can get relief quickly, and you can drop it just as quick. And that's the danger, especially when you get the relief you're looking for so much quicker than therapy or books or whatever. It's like, I have to do these esteemable acts. I have to raise my consciousness. I have to raise my spiritual fitness. And that makes me complacent. And I think that, I really resonate, and I have to remind myself, and I have it written down behind my desk, God is everything or God is nothing. Higher power is everything or it's nothing. That is probably the most significant sort of realization. I read that in the book and I understand. I'm like, oh, if there is a glimmer of my self-will in this prayer, in this action, in this idea, if I am not honestly turning my will and my life over, I'm not going to make it. I'm just not. Because nothing is enough for me except for when I do this work, it's entirely enough for me. I can get and feel and have the kind of confound, like baffling serenity and peace that I deserve, that you deserve. And I'll say that to anyone who's listening. And I don't know where I'm at on time. If you can send me a message in the chat.
Got about 4 minutes.
Perfect. And I'm just going to wrap up here and saying that the way, if you're like me, the way you were living was becoming impossible. And if you're not like me, but you're on that track, the impossibility of living a life like that will become very evident. The really scary thing about being an addict is that my behaviors don't vanish. I ask God to remove my character defects. I ask God to influence and input my first right action. Help me reshape and reform my first diseased thought. But my old life is waiting for me. My old life is there, and I can pick it right back up whenever I want. And so I just want to say to anybody who hasn't fully given themselves to this program, you don't need to do it for that long. Try it for 2 weeks. If you have never given yourself the opportunity to fully surrender to the best of your ability with the utmost levels of honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness, you're doing yourself a disservice, because there's a life to be lived. There's a person in there who deserves to live that life. And there's a connection and a experience that you will have that is so rich and so beautiful. I get to meet myself by doing this work. Meeting myself was my biggest fear. And through seeing myself through the eyes of my higher power. And when my higher power doesn't work, my fellows, because a fellowship will go around me, some of my best friends, people I've never even met before, showed me God, guided me to God, let me borrow their God when I didn't know what it was, didn't have one, didn't know, left from right. And so I just want to say that you deserve recovery. I love you, even if I don't know you, because I do know you, because we're all together here and we're all one. And we recover together. And so I hope that there was something helpful in what I've said, but also that there will be so many opportunities to hear people who have the solution, because the solution is just so powerful with this work. And my life is forever changed. I'm a living person today, and I forget it sometimes, but I signed up for this. I signed up to feel everything. I signed up to experience everything, and to move and evolve from the living dead, which I was living as, into a person. And feelings will pass, and challenging thoughts will pass, but everything is here to teach me. And these 12 steps teach me how to engage and interact and live, because I didn't know how to really live before this. And I live today with the hope and the objective of just trying to do my higher power's will at all times, be of service, help others. I deserve recovery. I'm not unique. And I love myself today. And that was something I never thought I would say. So thanks so much, and looking forward to hearing questions.
Leila, such good stuff. There's a lot of meat in what you shared. And I think there was so much there that I'll definitely be coming back to this one to to get some more from it, because I took so many notes, and we've got a ton of questions that have already come in. And we'll start off at the first one that came in very early in your share. So it was based on the honesty part of your share. So this is from an anonymous attendee. They say, that was a fear of mine, being honest with myself, thinking I'm too damaged and broken to heal, too far gone, I see no way out. It feels too huge a rebuild. What helped you to be gentle with yourself to be able to keep going on? I'm afraid of the pain that I know has to come up.
Ooh, that is so resonant. If you're still around, I felt exactly the same way. I don't even think I said it as beautifully and tragically as you just said it. I remember a really profound moment where my sponsor told me, because it was before I really understood the idea that my higher power forgives me. Higher power wasn't strong enough at that point for me to really grasp that I needed something more tangible. And I remember he said to me, my sponsor said to me, Leila, I forgive you. And I have chills right now. Just thinking about it, it makes me get emotional, because I was so unforgiving and uncompassionate towards myself. I had to forgive. And when I heard that, it released something in me. I forgive you before I had even made an amends. I was forgiven. Why did he say that to me? Because I am forgiven regardless. When I decide to do this work and I decide to put myself into this holy, I am forgiven. I have to, if I'm not forgiving myself, that's my own battle. I have no choice but to be compassionate, because the things that I did and the ways that I lived and the people that I hurt, I did try and kill myself. So I can't reflect on that stuff. So whoever asked that question, thank you. And I forgive you for everything that happened, that didn't happen. And I hope that you'll keep doing the work, because you will find relief from that.
That was a beautiful experience you just shared, and beautiful wording. Thank you for that, Leila. Ryan says, I love it. HOW How has been a lifesaver for my recovery as well. It's helped me to be really honest with myself. Can you spend a little time talking through some real world scenarios and applications of how honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness that you have had to live out?
Yeah. So, a big one was I moved out of my parents' house when I was like 18. I'm 36, almost 37. Hadn't been back since. And I was living in Mexico. I was killing myself and dying, living in LA in a huge apartment, the cushiest thing, making tons of money, drinking absurd amounts of alcohol, trying to kill myself during the pandemic. And then I stayed in that apartment for a little while, and then it became clear, because workaholism was a part of my addiction as well. I couldn't work the way that I was working before, so I had to move. I couldn't afford that place to live. So that was, to be honest, and people in this room know, I got a resentment still that I left. I'm of a resentment that I was honest, that I said, okay, I could have pulled it off. I would have killed myself spiritually, emotionally. And so then I went to Mexico. I thought, I'll just get a fresh start with no direction. That was a beautiful experience. I had some incredible moments, but then I ran out of money. And that's something that hadn't happened to me in a long time. And work wasn't coming through. And I hadn't done my amends with my parents yet. And I sat there in like a moment. And I remember I was staying with a very sick fellow. And God said to me, so you'll sit and be of service to this person, but you won't be of service to your parents. And when I heard that, I was like, all right, it's time to go home. And so I've been living at my parents' house as somebody who's had, accolades and recognition and tons of money at one point and whatever. None of that stuff really matters in the end, because what happened is I came here, and with much difficulty and lots of patience, open-mindedness, honesty, and willingness, I'm healing that relationship with my parents, which is the most painful wound I have. And so that was some honesty. Coming here was the last thing I wanted to do. Leaving that apartment was the last thing I wanted to do. But all of it it took a lot of courage, but it was required because my life is not my own anymore. And the things that become evident become really loud. And so I can lie about it, but these steps do this thing where when I'm lying to myself, it's like really obvious. Whereas before I could live an entire life of lies. So I don't know if that was anecdotal enough, but yeah, that's just one example.
No, I think that was perfect, Leila. And I'd like to do a follow-up on that real quick. And I apologize to some of the questions here, but I want to ask about the promise, the 9th step promise of fear of economic insecurity will leave us in this situation with you. If you'll dig in that, some honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness in there, that would be great.
Cool. Yeah, this is really funny. So that would probably be, all right. So that promise came so true for me when I did my first round of amends. And they weren't, a couple of them were financial amends, but I wasn't really in any financial, distress at that point. And so what happens is now I find myself, I'm being held by something. It's a little, what was once a flimsy reed, right? It's a flimsy reed of my faith that something is going to shift and change here for me. But what's becoming really evident is that I have some amends that I have to make, some really tough ones, and they're not going to solve my bank account. But what I know about this work is that you unlock one door and then another one down the hall opens. And again, it's the mysticism of this, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense, but those promises do come true. They don't stay forever, right? I'm not like a kept woman and have like a trust fund. I'm going to have to work through things. But I think, and when we eventually close with the full serenity prayer, it says like that I might be reasonably happy. If I'm prioritizing the money and do I have a real fear of financial insecurity, or am I actually fully financially secure right now? And I have an expectation of what I'm supposed to have. And I have not thought that. That had to have been higher power just speaking to me right now. So thank you for that question.
I love it. And as you were sharing that, the phrase that came to my mind was, with that same concept, am I really financially insecure, or do I have sufficient for my needs right now? And am I economically secure? And beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right, let's jump to another question here. This is from an anonymous attendee. Any recommendations for moving through or healing shame regarding acting out and coming to after a spree? It's feeling hard to love myself, says this person.
Yeah, quick answer to that. I'm addicted to shame. I'm addicted to feeling bad about myself. So I have to replace those behaviors with something else. The easiest thing to say is God. But the other easiest thing to say is start working with other addicts. Start getting people's phone numbers, work your steps. Like I said, I have no self-esteem when I come in here because I lived a life of a spree, and I do these steps to build my self-esteem. These are esteemable acts. It's not an easy process, but you have to want it. How bad? I don't know. How bad do you want it? Do you want it? And I'll just say this, you have to have compassion and love for yourself, but there is no spree or acting out behavior that will compare to the immediate relief you will get once you start actually doing this work. So I hope that you do it.
Love it. And that references back to the big book, when all else fails, work with another alcoholic, saves the day. Good stuff. Okay. Question from Emma. This is to try and remember something you said. Emma says, what a beautiful share. What was the phrase about asking God to change my first diseased thought? Do you remember you sharing that? What was that phrase?
Yeah, I said, I'm not responsible for my first thought, but I am responsible for my second thought and my first action. And so when I have a thought that is selfish, self-centered, self-seeking, self-pitying, I have to immediately ask God, remove this thought. and put something else in here so that I can take the next right action.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that back up. This one comes from Scott. What does a high quality surrender look like to you?
Oh, as it changes all the time. Sometimes a surrender is like it feels absurd. It's like kind of like when just now I felt like I surrendered actually when I said that thing about the money and I was laughing. I'm like, this is absurd. That's the surrender that I was not excited to tell you guys that I am broke, right? But it's like, I'm broke in one way, but I'm not broke in all of the ways. And so just by being, this is wild, this is the miracles, by being honest with you guys, because I could have thought of a lot of other practical experience of how works in my life, right? But I decided this one because it's the top of my head. And in doing that, I came to a realization and I came to a surrender where I finally admitted that I am in abundance. Doesn't look like the kind of abundance that I was expecting, but actually it's powerful and significant. So I don't know, a good surrender, a good abandonment. I mean, I don't know what it looks like for anybody else, but for me, it's always kind of different. And now in recovery, I sometimes, I don't have to get as low as I used to have to get. But I think when I feel resistance, any kind of resistance, I am nowhere near abandonment or surrender. If there's any resistance in my tone, in my thoughts, in my actions, once resistance is gone and that like energy is out, I think that's what surrender looks like for me.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. All right. This is from Lids. Thank you for your service being here today and for being such a powerful example of recovery. Lids' question: do you have any suggestions for someone who feels like they can't hear, feel, or have faith in a higher power in the moment?
Yeah, I mean, that for me at least, getting outside into nature or going on a walk or just getting outside of myself is like a really good momentary resolve for that. Can't get into sounds like there are some preconceived notions and maybe an inventory could be helpful. Not that I love to do them, but I need to do them. But yeah, I mean, I think that you just gotta be willing to go to any lengths. So my lengths were just pretending that I knew what I was praying to until I finally heard something. I literally went on my hands and knees every single morning and every single night praying to absolutely just the paint on the walls until eventually it became, again, what was once a flimsy reed becomes my understanding of a higher power. And so I would just say praying for the willingness and pray for the willing. You know what I mean? It's like, it feeds into itself. I don't know if that was a clear answer, but
I think so. And I think it leads into another question that one of our live audience asked. This is from Ty. And Ty says basically the same question leading into this, but then says, can you tell us more about your experience of higher power? What does your higher power feel like, sound like, etc. to you?
Yeah. So in the beginning, I talked about this on my first talk. In the beginning, my higher power was like David Bowie and Prince, and like it was like a epic music concert. And what's funny is from when I had like created this visual of music for a really long time, my higher power only talked to me in music. So it was like wild things, like I would be driving in the car listening to a song. I don't listen to new music. Listening to a song, I'd turn off the car, I'd walk into a store. The same song would be playing in the store at the same moment that I had turned it off, like synchronicity like that, right? I don't believe too much in like angel numbers and things like that, but I do believe in certain synchronistic events. And so I would listen for songs and like the contents of songs. And then I would listen to like the discomfort in me, because I also went through like a lot of, I continue to go through a lot of like depression and struggling with mental health stuff and anxiety and different things. And so I try to welcome the discomfort in me. Because when I welcome it and I don't repress it and I allow it to exist, radical acceptance of my discomfort, I've now like allowed my higher power to come in and like do some work. And it's sort of vague. I understand that, but it's like it's a very sort of experiential thing. It's by being honest and like showing up for myself and for whatever's happening in me, that I like give access to God. God can't do it unless I give access. And when I don't give access, I sit in the mire that is addiction, and it's hell. So I don't know. Hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you so much, Leila. All right, this is from Salma. Salma wants to ask about your step 8 and 9 on your first journey. So tell us a little bit about that and how that may relate to this topic here.
Yeah. So I had a very big fourth step, fourth and fifth, and I kind of did the amends that felt, to me, they felt like they weren't that significant, but now that I look back on them, they were kind of huge, and I had to really take a big bite of honesty and humility. But they looked like a couple of different things. Like one of them was a financial amends where I used to live in financial vagueness. So I built a budget. And then by building a budget, it actually gave me the insight to understand that I couldn't eventually, coming within the next 6 months, I wouldn't be able to afford to live where I was living. But like in the past, I would have just gotten to that point, felt homeless, felt destitute, found a partner and moved in with them. Like that would have, that was my gone and spent my money on drugs or booze, whatever. So I did these little amends that were more about like amends to myself, exercising, meditating, making my bed every day, huge. Okay, it's unrecovered when I don't make my bed. And I say that with true conviction. And then I made some amends to people who, I would say half of them, it stuck. Half of them did not accept those amends. And I pray for those people, and I pray for my, for any pain and hurt that I've caused them to be released from them. And then I kind of like took a break from amends, really, because it was a lot. And it was, I needed to then start, I need to continue to do the work. So my first set of amends, it went well. I was going with the objective of being of service to these people that I hurt, and to these institutions, and to these ideas, so I tried to take myself out of it as much as possible. And the remaining amends that I have to make are real difficult ones. And I'm really scared of them. And so I'm currently trying to get the willingness, praying for the willingness to be willing to make these amends, because they terrify me. And they're people that I really, really hurt. So I'm thinking in my head, those people who I knew for 3 years and didn't even think I did anything to, won't talk to me ever again. I can't imagine. It's not about me though. It's about clearing the wreckage of my past, because clearing the wreckage of my past also helps me to build my self-esteem. I don't have to walk around the world feeling like I have to hide. And so there's a tremendous amount of relief that came from that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. All right, question from Ryan. Can you talk about what conversations look like for you when you encounter someone who doesn't appear to be honest, open, or willing? Since it's not our job to take anyone's inventory but our own, how do you approach those conversations?
Yeah, well, it's not really, I'm no longer in the business of decoding, the pyramids or whatever. I have to believe what someone says to me. I don't have the luxury of, just like I don't have the luxury of not believing in a higher power. I don't have the luxury of, are they lying? Is that true? It's not even about taking inventory. I can't afford that thought, because that thought will send me on a witch hunt, and I won't stop, and I will destroy somebody, because I'm the bearer of truth. I'm the one who knows everything, right? Like and that's also, I think that comes from being such a big liar, is that I have a really good radar for them, for liars and lies. But it's not a good use of my time. It's not helpful. It's not useful. I have one objective. And if it's helpful if I see, I'll put it this way, if I see a friend or a fellow that's in any kind of delusion, something that they are at risk, that a lie is a risk, puts them or somebody else in danger, I'll probably have an emotionally intelligent conversation about it. But if someone wants to tell me some weird random lie, somebody wants to like not, it's just not my business. And I pray for them generally. Afterwards, I hope that they get to the point where they can be honest, because it's so much easier and much less to keep track of.
Man, when you said that, my defenses went up. So there's definitely something there I need to examine, because I thought, no, I need to call somebody out on their lie when they're lying. No, there's truth to what you said because of the response that I had to that. So thank you for sharing that. That allows me to examine myself a lot there. Thank you. Another question from an anonymous attendee that I think follows up well on this question. How can I stop the judgment? I feel addicted to judging everyone, myself, yes, but others. Either humans are my gods or my enemy. It's exhausting. How long does it take to get better?
Well, it's a lifetime. We get to do this for a lifetime to get all various kinds of better. So my sponsor once said to me, and people in these rooms know, I've got a judgy vibe. I think I've gotten better, but I've been very judgmental. And they would be so bad that to the point where I'd go to a meeting and I'd hear the speakers, the first tone that they utter in their lead, and their voice feels like nails on a chalkboard. It doesn't. I have visceral reactions to people. And my sponsor said this really beautiful thing to me, which I'm sure everybody's heard, but it blew my mind. He said, like, whenever you're judging another person, there's something about you that's in there that you're judging. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you don't really care about who this person is. They're saying something, they're doing something, they're living in a way, or they're existing as some kind of mirror. And it's an opportunity for you to practice self-love and self-compassion and self-care. And so what I used to do until I got to just be way more accepting of people, for example, in meetings, is if somebody annoyed me, I would just turn off my camera and go, I love you. I hear you. I love you. I hear you. And like miraculously, when I told these people that I used to like send a DM, right? I'm petty. I've been petty. Oh, can't stand them. I love you. Because the truth is I can't stand myself. And so in doing that, I felt a tremendous amount of relief from judging at least other people. Oh, and also one other thing I'll just add is like, I'll liken it to like a psychedelic experience. If you've ever done psychedelic drugs, the first time I did psychedelic drugs, I had one message, and it was everything that has happened, will happen, and hasn't happened, and is happening perfectly. So it's like, if I'm judging someone's life circumstance, the way whatever, everything is perfect in God's world and there's no mistakes. And I am definitely not the one to point out the mistakes if I thought there were any.
Thank you. And we're coming up on the end of the hour here, and we've still got a few questions left. So what we'll do is I'll take those questions. I'm going to take all these questions. I'll post them in the WhatsApp community that we have, the Facebook page that we have. If you aren't a part of that and you want to look at these questions, answer questions for each other, check them out. And Leila, if you want to jump in there and maybe answer some of these questions, typing them out, if you would be willing to do that, that's great. If not, totally understood there. We'll get to those questions there in those communities. I'll have them posted up this afternoon. We need to wind up though now. So Leila, do you have any final words of wisdom before we get to a closing reading and the serenity prayer?
Well, I just clicked in the Q&A. I'm not going to answer a question, but I just saw this really nice question, and I'm just going to, it's just going to, a nice way to end, I think. How did I come to understand that I believe that I deserve to live life. I just want to say that, like, I always deserved to live a life that was happy, joyous, and free. I always deserved serenity and peace. I don't come to deserve that. I come to believe in it as truth, the truth that it is. So act as if is my final statement to y'all. You're not hearing God, act as if you are. You're not feeling this stuff, act as if you are. Our thoughts and our actions have such power and weight. And fake it till you make it. I truly believe in that, because that held me over until the real experiences and power of this work came into my life. So yeah, I'll just leave you with that.
Thank you so much, Leila. Such powerful share today. Powerful Q&A. Appreciate it. That was a great RICO 12 weekly speaker meeting. And if we didn't get to your questions, please consider joining that WhatsApp community. Join our Facebook group. I've put those links and information there in the chat. They'll be in the show notes also. Let's see. Next week, if you were inspired and want to share something from your insights in a 12-step type share, go to RICO 12 Shares Speak Pipe link that's also in the chat here and in the show notes, and record your 2 to 4 minute share there. If you have not yet rated and reviewed the podcast in Apple Podcasts, please go do so now. It's a great way to work our 12th step in sharing this message with others. I invite you to come back next Friday. Next week, we'll be hearing from Evie S., whose topic will be Life Changes in 35 Years of Recovery. Evie spoke to us previously on a meeting number 116 in August of 2022. Now, let's launch off into the rest of our day with the full version of the Serenity Prayer that Leila will say for us. Go ahead, Leila.
Thank you so much, Justin. Thanks, everybody, for your questions and for showing up. And Justin, thank you so much for this service. After a moment of silence for those still sick and suffering, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as the pathway to peace, taking, as God did, the world as it is, not as I would have it, trusting that God will make all things right if I surrender to God's will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with God forever in the next. Thanks.
Amen. Thank you so much, Leila. Keep coming back, everybody. It works when I work it, so work it. You are worth it.
Standing still a moment, carving out this time, reflecting on the landscape of this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived